Welcome to the podcast, Accounting, We Go Beyond the Numbers, from Ross Bueller Falk, a CPA and business advisory firm. I'm Kay Wagner, your host for this podcast series. You'll receive great business advice here, including accounting, tax tips, and a whole lot more that will help you grow your business. Here we go. Hi everyone, I'm here at the RBF Executive Forum, where we're about to hear Liz Martin of Martin Insurance share with us her business lessons learned. She has some great wisdom for us, so take a listen.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you to RBF for having me here today, and Kay also helped set this up. So I appreciate so many people here to come and hear about my experience in the insurance business and in business in general. So I hope I can share some good, insightful things for you all to take away with you. Before I start, I'd just like to introduce two members of my executive team that are here today. Tom Gibble, if you can stand. Tom Gibble is our marketing manager, so anything you see out in the public with Martin Insurance, he's designed it or had a hand in designing it. And he does a lot with our social media as well as our public relations. And he also helps me do some personal assistant things, and basically Tom runs my life for me. Sarah Johnston, if you could stand. Sarah is our personal lines team leader. She handles the good folks that do auto insurance and home insurance and dwelling fires and motorcycles and RVs. She manages them. She also does customer service work, and I really appreciate Sarah, and she is turning in to be quite the leader in our agency, so I appreciate that very much. So as Jeff mentioned, I live on a farm, and on the farm we have obviously farm animals, and we have some other little wild animals that run around. Last Monday I had finished up dinner, and I just got on this app called Fitness Pal. Is anybody familiar with Fitness Pal? Okay, so some of you are. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Fitness Pal app, it's an app that you put on your phone, and you put in your height and your weight and your goal weight and your exercise level activity, and it spits back to you how many calories you're allowed to have that day based on all these parameters that you put in. And once you've used those calories up, you're done. So on Monday, I was being really good, but I decided at the end of the day I just had to have those 4 Oreo cookies, right? And so Ange came home at the end of the day. I said, hey, she had come home from yoga, of course. I said, hey, do you mind taking the dogs for a walk? If you go up one lane and down the other, it's about a half mile, and up another lane and down the mile, it's about a half mile. I said, do you mind going for a walk? I'd like to work off these 4 Oreo cookies so I don't go over my calories on Fitness Pal. I said, well, take the dogs. I have 2 dogs. Max, I adopted about 10 years ago. He's a black lab Jack Russell mix. And although he's a very sweet dog, he's not going to win like the smartest dog award. Okay, so we all know this kind of dog. And Alice is a little deer Boston Terrier that we adopted 2 years ago, and she's a little brilliant diva, everything pink with Alice. And we affectionately call her Baby. So we started walking down the lane. We went up the one lane and we came down the other, and we had our headlamps on because it's pitch dark. Okay, it's on the farm, and we start walking down the other lane, and Ange is about 3 feet behind me, and all of a sudden she said, wow, a fox just ran right behind me. And I'm like, what? A fox? And she's like, maybe I better pick up Baby. Maybe I better pick up Baby. I'm like, pick up Baby. And Max is like, what's going on? What's going on? And I turn down the lane, and literally to Doug is another fox staring me right in the face. And I'm like, wow. And he comes towards me, and I proceed to go, this was my reaction. And thank God he ran away, right? So now you know, if you ever scare me, you're going to meet a bear. I didn't know it either, but now I know. So yeah, so it's just the fun things of living on a farm, right? This is my farm. I'm very fortunate to live on the farm. I'm the 5th generation owner of the farm. And of course, a lot of things happened on the farm over the years. The story that my father used to love to tell was if it wouldn't have been for my grandma, Hetty Stauffer, the farm probably would have got out of our farm. My grandfather, Martin, was living in Millersville with his parents. They were not farming. The farm was being rented when he met my grandmother. It was evidently in very bad shape, and my grandfather really wasn't much of a farmer because he didn't grow up on a farm. They got married, and as a lot of times happened with Mennonite families, they would go live with the in-laws. So they got married in the fall, and they went to live with my grandfather's parents. And my grandmother was a wonderful person, and I say fortunately, she did not get along with her mother-in-law, right? This happens sometimes. So she said to my grandfather, if we're not at the farm by spring, I'm leaving you and I'm going home to my mother. True story. And so that got my grandfather and my grandmother on the farm. And then he really, started fixing it up. And of course, my dad came along and started fixing up. And I credit them to actually what it looks like today. And so my goal is just to keep it preserved and keep it a beautiful farm. My dad was mainly in the chicken business, so that was kind of a business I grew up in. We had horses, we had race horses that we raised. We didn't race horses, but we raised standardbred race horses. And then also we always had some cows around. And so my other business is Ironstone Spring Farm. In 2005, I saw the trend for the local food and the grass-fed beef market. I developed a herd. We have 30 breeding stock, and then the calves are born. We raise them on the farm, they get processed, and then we sell the beef direct to the consumer. And I have a full-time farm manager because insurance is definitely the day job. And the full-time farm manager runs my farm and does a great job for me. So I attended Elizabethtown College when I graduated from high school. And I was a business major with a minor in English. Just really enjoyed business. I think Elizabethtown is a great college. Met some friends there that I'll have for the rest of my life. And it was good for me because it was a smaller school. I didn't want to go to a large university. And I'm still involved there today on their leadership council. So when I was in college, between my sophomore year and my junior year, I spent a summer with my Uncle Wilbur, who had a one-man insurance agency. And this was truly the first time that I had kind of even worked somewhat in the professional world, because I always worked on the farm. I never had to seek an outside job because there was always plenty of work that I could do on the farm. And I really enjoyed working with Uncle Wilbur. He got me out to meet clients, and I really enjoyed meeting people, and I realized that I had an acumen for sales. So I decided that when I graduated from Elizabethtown, that's what I was going to do. I was going to get into the insurance business. My father had the chicken hatchery that he started probably in the 60s. It was on Columbia Avenue. He had been very, very successful with it over the years, but it was at a point where it was just a dying business. It was just, the equipment was antiquated. Most of the industry was becoming integrated, and it was very difficult for just a single hatchery just to hatch baby chicks to survive. But he asked me if I would come run that for him, and he said, if you don't like it, in 2 years, you can stop and get into the insurance business. So, obviously honoring my father, he helped pay for college, I felt that it was a good thing that I would go work for him in the chicken hatchery and help him out. So this is not me, but this gives you an idea kind of what it's like in a chicken hatchery. We could hatch about 400,000 chicks a week, actually, believe it or not. And that's actually considered a fairly, in today's world, a smaller hatchery. It was very difficult work. I ended up being there till 1996, so 2 years turned into 8 years, and they were 8 long years in my life because I really did not enjoy doing it. It was difficult, it was dirty, it was long hours. I wasn't making much money, so I just didn't have a lot of satisfaction from it. But one thing that I really learned from working there was about people. We insured a lot of unskilled laborers. And that was really the first time in my life that I'd actually seen people who really struggled differently. We had a lot of single mothers that worked there. We had a program with the prison where we had a work release program, and we hired people out of prison. We had some people that were involved in domestic violence situations. And I just really saw a different side of Lancaster, a different side of people, and what they go through and how they struggle to work and how to actually basically survive. So I learned a lot as far as working with people there. So in May of '96, I convinced my father that I would have to get into Uncle Wilbur's insurance agency because he was 75 at the time. He was getting some feedback from his insurance companies that they were concerned what he was going to do with the perpetuation plan, because again, it was really just himself and maybe a part-time person working there. And we leased the hatchery to our main customer for a couple years, and then after that we sold it to a church, and now it's called Living Hope Church, so maybe some of you know where that is. They kept the footprint of the building and they turned it into a church. So I joined Uncle Wilbur in May of '96 with every intention that I was going to have the business bought within probably a month. And he had been previously saying, yep, I'm going to sell it to you. And so I came in there and started working, and he started to back off a little bit, probably because he had someone in there now helping him. So we went back and forth on price. I guess it was probably September. I got a call from another agency, another insurance agent that I knew, and he said, hey, you're going to buy your uncle's insurance agency, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I'm going to buy it. He said, well, he called me and he asked me if I would give him a price. And I said, really? Now, in retrospect, he might have just been trying to get pricing, right? But this was the end of it for Liz. So I said to Uncle Wilbur, and I brought my dad into the equation, because Uncle Wilbur was my dad's older brother, and they got along really well. I said, if I don't have a deal on the table by October 1st, I'm going to walk away from this, and I'm not going to buy this insurance agency. Now, I was licensed, and I, of course, thought I was highly skilled, and I figured anybody hire me in commission. Why wouldn't they? So I wasn't worried about getting a job. So my dad talked to my Uncle Wilbur because he knew I was serious. I don't know if Uncle Wilbur knew I was serious. We got the deal done. It was a one-page piece of paper, no attorney involved. We got the deal done. So that's how I became the fourth-generation owner of Martin Insurance Agency. Ironically, July of '97, my uncle was on a bicycle. He fell off the bicycle and hit his head and was debilitated the rest of his life. It was a really unfortunate situation. So he lived for 5 more years in Willow Valley, but never mentally got the same. So I don't know what would have happened, but it's just an interesting story of perpetuation and how things, come together sometimes the right way. But I really felt bad for Uncle Wilbur that happened. So where we are today, our growth has been organic and through acquisition of 5 other agencies over the years. Just purchased one a little over a year ago. We have 12 employees, soon to be 13. The 13th employee is going to be Ryan Finger. He's going to be responsible solely for new business insurance development. Again, Ryan Finger, because in case he calls you and wants an appointment, you'll talk to him, right? We're licensed in numerous states. We insure all types of businesses, from one-person shops to large corporations. And as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of personal lines insurance, and we do life and health insurance also. And an independent agency representing probably 50 different companies. So now I want to get into some of the lessons that I've learned over the years. First, always find other people who are more talented than you and associate with them. Surround yourself with people who will make you a better person. And I think this is so important because there's a lot of people, especially in my case, that are more talented than I am. So it's not hard for me to find people, fortunately. And ever since I've been in business, and even when I was in college, I sought out people that I thought were really successful business owners that had good values, and I would try to meet them. Donna Anderson, who owns Online Publisher, she was one of my first clients. Kay, obviously, was one of my first clients. Really helped me, taught me how to network, taught me a level of professionalism. I spent time probably in '98 with Laura Shantz when she opened her consulting business for the first time. She had just come from Murray Insurance, and she was one of their top commercial line salespeople at Murray Insurance. And I really didn't have the money to spend, but I came up with the money to spend because I wanted to learn her secrets. And some of the things she taught me, I use today. And she was a very good salesperson and a good person. So I have pictures of some people that obviously I have a lot of people that I associate with and that I feel very talented. But Kendra McGuire, she is an attorney with McNeese Wallace. You know Phil Wenger from Isaacs, and he's now with Lancaster Conservancy. This is Deepa Balapur. She works with Compass Realty, and she also is involved in the Indian Organization of Lancaster. Lisa Donaldson, she's a VP of Auditing for Coach in New York City. So anytime I need big corporate advice, I give Lisa a call because she knows how to run in that world, and I certainly don't. Lisa Groff, good friend of mine, owns Groff's Family Funeral Home, just really gets service. She really understands it, really knows how to listen to people. This was a photo a number of years ago that I played in the golf tournament with Alicia Marantz Kay, and there's Lisa, and then this is Annika Sorenstam. She tried to give me some advice for golf, but I don't think it worked. But it was a pleasure to meet her. She's probably one of the best women golfers, probably one of the best in the world, for sure. Always take the time to learn from other people how they network, what they're doing, how they're running their business. I just can't tell you, I'm an experiential learner, so there's just been so many times that my clients have helped me and given me ideas, and I think vice versa too. This is one of the wonderful things about being in the insurance business and probably being in sales in general is a lot of times I go in to see my clients and maybe half the time or 3/4 of the time at the most we'll talk about their insurance policies, and then the rest of the time we talk about our businesses. And we share ideas, or we'll talk about our families, our personal life, and just the relationships that I've been able to build up over the years by surrounding myself with people that are better than me has just been phenomenal. And anymore, I just don't take the time. If I think someone is a negative person, I try not to associate with them. I just want to work with people that are going to build me up in the business world. Have a sense of curiosity, ask people questions, and then listen. My father, who died in 2010, was like my best business consultant ever. He was amazing. When I was a little kid, it may be hard for you to think of, but I was a chatterbox. And I used to evidently just talk nonstop. And my dad hung out with me all the time. We were very connected. And he would say, "Elizabeth, you never learn anything with your mouth open." And I knew that that meant it was time to be quiet and listen. And I always thought it was kind of cool because he never told me to be quiet or shut up. He would just say that, and it was like the code. And he also said, learn something new every day or there's something wrong with you. So even today, I try to learn at least one thing new. Sometimes I learn two things new. When I first started out in sales, I would go in and sit down with a client, and I would just spew forth everything about Martin Insurance Agency. You know, I'm Liz Martin, I'm the 4th generation owner, we can do this, 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 and this, and I would just watch them gloss over, right? And I quickly realized that it's good to say something about your business, but it's much, much more important to ask questions and to be genuinely concerned and really care about other people. Because that's how you build relationships, and that's why people will do business with you. And it's just more gratifying to do that also, because you can learn more from people. I take notes. There's an app on my phone called Evernote. I don't know if anybody has it. So after I see a new client or even a current client, everybody has a little notebook in there, and I make notes about them. I still follow up with handwritten note cards. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Emails. Try to remember the little things about people, that makes them feel important. Do what you say you're going to do and keep your promises, or don't make them. Today's world, sometimes I think we're amazed if this happens, right? So I think it's really important that we don't take lightly our words. And if we say we're going to do something for a client or for an employee or even for someone in our family, that we follow through and that we do it. And especially don't make a promise that you cannot keep. I think sometimes we have taken that too lightly, and our word is so important. And it's important that we honor that, and we want people to honor their word, so I think it's important we do that for them too. Your reputation in business is golden. Over the years, I've seen people get ahead by, I call it walking the line. They're walking the line between honesty and dishonesty, right? I've seen them maybe get an account that I wanted. I've seen them maybe make more money. But we know in the long run that we cannot sacrifice our values. We cannot sacrifice our reputation. I think Lancaster County is a great place to do business, because in Lancaster County, and people have told me this, if you have a good reputation, people will do business with you, and if you don't have a good reputation in Lancaster, people will not do business with you. And in some areas of our country, that's not the case, or it doesn't matter. So we're very fortunate that our reputation in Lancaster really, really does matter, and it's important to remember that no matter what, that you stay by your reputation. And have confidentiality at all times. I think it's really important that our clients trust us, that our employees trust us. Certainly your clients, we do business with companies that would compete with each other all the time, and they probably would never even know that. We don't talk to one company over here about this company or that company. We just have complete confidentiality at all the times. And oftentimes, even if there's something that comes out about somebody and I might have known it anyhow, I never act like I knew what was going on. I think confidentiality is key. And that's hard to do sometimes. So I'm fortunate to have a great team. This is our Martin Insurance Agency team. And we really need to trust our employees to do their best in their jobs. Also check in with them often. So I'm not a micromanager. I tend to be pretty hands-off, and I delegate a lot, mainly because I'm forced to, right? I'm so busy. The people that work for me do a very good job. They stay in touch, and it's important for me, though, to check in with them. So if you are not going to micromanage, which I don't think you should, it's still important to check in with people regularly to see how they're doing, to see what their confidence level is, to see if they have any problems or issues that they need to address. We can't be successful without our employees. Sometimes in my office, people will say, "Oh, it's going to be a quiet day. We're so happy the phones are quiet." And of course, I say, "Well, if the phone doesn't ring, we don't have business." And then I think to myself, "Well, if I don't have employees, I don't have business either. Maybe they need a break, right?" That's more important, actually. The little things matter: praise, please, thank you, getting people's opinions. People that do their jobs day in and day out certainly know how to do it a lot better than I do. And this I can do more of, honestly. I get running pretty hard, and I need to really focus more on this. This is one of the things that I need to develop as a strength. We practice appreciative inquiry. The appreciative inquiry model is that you focus on the positive instead of the negative. So rather than going to what we did wrong, at meetings we talk about what we did right, and we try to share successes. Sarah has a whiteboard downstairs with her team where they can write on wins that happened that day, so everybody can see successes that are happening. And it's also important that we have our employees' backs. Ultimately, as the business owner or the CEO or the manager, we're responsible. We're ultimately responsible. And it really upsets me if I have an issue with a company, say something went wrong, and I talk to the manager, and they say, "Oh, that was because so-and-so didn't do it right." It actually upsets me when people say that, because I feel like, I'm talking to you, you're their manager, you should take responsibility for that, and you should have the person's back that works for you. Now, obviously, you might have to have an individual conversation, but it's important that people understand that you're going to stick up for them, and you're not going to throw them under the bus. Have excellent trusted advisors, such as insurance agent, attorney, your CPA, and banker, and ask for their expertise and advice. But ultimately, you need to make your own business decisions. My dad said when he first started in business, he dealt with Mr. Apple from Apple and Yost, and I imagine this probably would have been in the 40s. And he said my dad did not have a college education. In fact, he almost didn't graduate from high school because he was so busy starting his business. So he said he would call him all the time and ask him for business advice and this and this. And he said, finally, Mr. Apple said to him, Howard, you know, it's important that you have a good attorney, but the main thing is that you make your own business decisions and that you stand by it. So all these folks that we look to for advice, they have their individual focus and they have their individual opinions, but we have to bring that all together and decide if we're going to take the risk and make our own business decision. And then we need to stand by it. Give back to your community and pay attention to what's happening there. I'm going to talk a little bit about this because it's near and dear to my heart. I just feel so strongly that we need to give back to our community. This is a picture of some of us at the most recent Race Against Racism. We try to do that every year. I believe as a business owner, we have a responsibility and an obligation to give back to our community and to help others. And I'll say it again, as a business owner, we have a responsibility and an obligation to give back to our community and to help others. I don't think it's a choice, I think it's an obligation. Try to get employees involved where we can. This is part of our strategic plan, is volunteering, and we're working on different ways that we can get employees involved. I was recently, I guess it was past summer, I was at an event for Southeast Health Clinic. They had an event where they rappelled off a building. They had people, I don't know if any of you were there or not, but it was interesting. As a good insurance agent, I wasn't coming off the building, but I was a sponsor. And I met a young lady there, and she had a Union Community a bank shirt on, and I'm just going to give them a plug. And she was very peppy, and whenever I see peppy young people, I make a point to talk to them, because I can always learn something. I said, well, what brings you here? And she said, I think they did some sort of sponsorship, and she was there just checking things out and helping to volunteer, and she was so excited. And I said, how long have you worked at Union Community Bank? And it may have been a year. And she said, I love this bank because the bank I worked before never gave me an opportunity to volunteer at all. I had to stay in the office the entire time. I never had a chance to do anything. And this is why I love Union Community Bank. So how great is that for her on an intrinsic level? And how great is it for the business, right? I mean, you cannot get better PR than that. It's impossible. Like a millennial telling someone how fantastic your business is, right? So yeah, I just thought it was a really neat thing. And so as far as paying attention, I just want to talk a little bit about what actually is going on in Lancaster as far as our poverty rate. I think there's a lot of myths out there. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Just let's take a few minutes. So this is a 2016 poverty rate. could not find 2018. I don't know why, but Lancaster City has a 29% poverty rate. Lancaster County, 10.7%. And countywide, there are 55,000 people living in poverty. That's a lot of people. So what is poverty level? So the federal poverty line is, you can see it here. For one person, it's $12,140 or less. Like that's the top of the poverty line. Now there may be people in this room who probably make that in a month. Maybe you make more than that in a month. And then you can see down as to up to five, family of five, 29,420 is the poverty line. And there are some people that are living below that. A lot of people are just trying to get by. They're working 2 or 3 jobs. They're doing whatever they can just to support their families. I want to talk about the temporary assistance for needy families. This is commonly known as welfare. I don't know if any of you have ever heard someone say, I'm so tired of working so hard when people are just sitting on welfare and they're not working at all. They just sit on welfare all their lives. I've heard people have said this to me over the years. So I just wanted to share a little bit about welfare and kind of the way it works. This actually was established in 1997. So now it's called TANF. And it's temporary assistance for needy families. It was designed to help families achieve self-sufficiency. And they would get block grants to design and operate the programs. And as I said, it was established in 1997. And 2 of the purposes, there's 4 purposes, but 2 of the purposes of TANF are to provide assistance to needy families so that children can be cared for in their own homes, and reduce the dependency of needy parents by promoting job preparation and work. So it's very much encouraging job preparation and work. The maximum lifetime that someone can get TANF is 60 months. Okay, so that's the maximum lifetime for a participant. 5 years, not lifetime. Not a lot of lifetime benefit, 5 years benefit. And it was established by the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Now, CareerLink in Lancaster is one of the agencies that aids in making sure TANF is measured and that there's accountability on those receiving TANF. So if someone is getting TANF in Lancaster County, they have to report to CareerLink and they have to clock in and they have to be there at least 30 hours a week if they're not working a part-time job. CareerLink measures this and holds them accountable, and there's various things that CareerLink does, but two programs they have is Work Ready, and that's to remove barriers for people who aren't able to be employed yet. So maybe they need childcare, maybe they need to get their GED, maybe they need some computer basics. And then there's Earn, and that program is for people who are ready to go, and that's getting them jobs. And the people that are in these programs have to report and they have to be there and there's accountability. So I just wanted to just take a moment to kind of just educate everybody on that and try to dispel any myths that may be running around out there. So there's so many ways that you can volunteer. I went through Leadership Lancaster in 2001. That's a great program. They have a year program. You can do a executive program, which is shorter, and you learn all about Lancaster County and the volunteer opportunities. You can check out the United Way website. There's a list of nonprofits there, and you can just search volunteer opportunities in Lancaster. Pick your passion and decide what you want to do. Maybe it's your church, maybe it's animals, maybe it's kids, maybe it's people with disabilities, whatever. Pick something that you're passionate about and volunteer. And also, in addition, give money. A lot of these organizations over the years have had their funding cut, and they're really, really needing money also. So another lesson learned is have fun. We try to have fun at Martin Insurance Agency. We have happy hours. We do quarterly luncheons where we have a theme lunch, and we just close down the office. And I think, Sarah, we've probably had every theme possible, right? Or probably repeating them around. Go to a ball game, take people out for picnics. We spend a lot of time at work, and it is important that we do take time to have fun with each other. And finally, Kay said I should mention the secret sauce. My secret sauce in the business is knowing that no matter what, there is always a solution. And I always keep this in my mind, and believe me, there's been times in my business where I thought there was not a solution. I've been pretty down. And it may not be the solution that we want, or it may not be the solution that we think it is. We have to seek advice sometimes, but as a business owner, you have to believe that there's always a solution. I keep Winnie the Pooh on my desk. I'm a huge Winnie the Pooh fan. This is the caption that says, think, think, think. And that is written here. And so if I'm really trying to come up with a solution, I actually will look at Winnie the Pooh and I just think, think, think. And I usually come up with a solution. So thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
That's it for today, folks. Visit rbfco.com, that's rbfco.com, for more information on accounting that goes beyond the numbers. This is your host, Kay Wagner, for Ross Bueller Falk. Our next episode is coming soon. Don't miss it.